Could you use a quick tip daily? How about a tip that can impact your day? My name is Rafael. Join me as I bring you tips by experts around the world. These experts have shared their knowledge and wisdom with me and will directly share them with you. Make sure to subscribe, like, follow, and comment, and I would love for you to become part of the New Tip Daily community. Good morning. I hope you're having an exceptional Friday. I am excited. I have an incredible guest coming on shortly. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties, but she's coming on shortly. And Juli Bohmer is going to talk to us about her books and how storytelling meets purpose. So let me go ahead and bring Juli on. Juli, thank you for being here with us. Just keep your phone that way. That's going to be okay. Right?
Okay. Can everybody see me okay?
Well, not anymore.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. There you go. We can see you now.
Okay.
Right. So thank you for being here with us. And I know technical difficulties do happen, but we went to plan B. We're on your phone. Thank you for doing that. And today you're going to give us some great tips on storytelling meets purpose. And basically, thank you for sending these incredible books. The kids are loving them. I have read them to the kids here in our martial arts studio, and it's phenomenal when we can create stories that help people see things in a different way. Would you share with us the great tips that you have for us today?
Yeah. So my tips when I'm writing stories is really to write to what the children like. So as most of you may or may not know, I have two children. They're both boys. So when I create stories, I create a character that they could relate to and really see themselves in the character. And as I create, I continue to make the story flow with things that the kids would like. For instance, in the Strange Thing Forest, my own child was the first or second grader at the time. So I made the story about a young boy that was the main character. We had been hiking quite a bit, so I created the story in a forest based on a homework assignment where he had written about a forest, and my son had red tennis shoes. So the character is based on my oldest son who had red tennis shoes hiking through a forest. And I thought, well, what would kids like that would be strange in a forest? And ice cream cones, bubble gums, cartoon characters, all things kid friendly came to mind. And that's really how that story was created.
I love that. When you took what was available to you and then you created even more.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the book, especially when what is that ice cream on
ice cream cones growing on trees.
Yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool, right? So think about that. Who wouldn't want to just go up to a tree and get your ice cream cone?
Absolutely.
And kids love stuff like that because we don't see that. So it's definitely imagination to its fullest, right?
Right. And I also try to tell stories to entertain kids. I feel like kids are pretty smart where they can determine whether you're trying to teach them something or not. And sometimes kids don't always want everything educational. They want entertainment. And I feel like so much of the entertainment out there kind of lacks innocence or introduces them to topics that maybe they're too young to be introduced to. So I really try to keep it age appropriate, innocent, and kid friendly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that because there is some things in Hollywood that are made. So I'm going to say some studios in Hollywood they're making kids for movies, but they have very undertones, very adult undertones. I'm like, I cannot believe that was in the movie. Right?
I would agree.
Yeah.
Even, you look at some of these Disney movies, and I love Disney. I think a lot of them are made for adults, in cartoon format. But some of them can be very scary for children. I remember even the original The Little Mermaid, for example, when Ursula came out of the ocean, like my kids were terrified of that. Um, they'll create romantic themes where people are falling in love. Kids who are kindergarten through second grade aren't falling in love. It's just a concept they don't even understand. They understand
Mhm.
family love, loving their parents, loving their grandparents, loving their teachers, loving their friends. They don't understand romantic love. It's not appropriate to have characters, kissing and getting married. I don't want to say it's necessarily inappropriate, but at the same time, it's just not where a child is at. So I'm really trying to meet the child where he or she is at and provide them with innocent topics where they're not going to ask questions about adult topics that they don't need to be thinking about as a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old. They need to preserve their innocence, enjoy it. And what do all young children love? They love ice cream. They love cartoons. They love their friends. They love balloons. They love bubble gum. So I really am committed to preserving that innocence.
Mhm. So, would you recommend, as a tip for parents to, even though maybe it's a Disney movie, maybe it's inappropriate for their 5-year-old?
Yeah, I would encourage them to watch it first. And even if
Mm,
they like most of the movie, but maybe there's one scene that's not appropriate, pause it when you get to that part. Have your kid leave the room or forward through to the scene where it can pick up where they left off. Because a lot of scenes aren't even necessary to make up the whole movie. So there's definitely scenes that I feel kind of sneak into, um, just introduce inappropriate kid topics that are not kid
mhm.
topics. They're
Right,
adult
right.
topics made to look like kid topics. So it's really important to use your own discernment as a parent and either skip over it completely or just avoid a particular movie.
Mhm. It, I'm glad we're talking about this because, and the tip of storytelling meets purpose, because you're directing these books in an innocent way so that they can have a fun time. But a lot of times parents put kids in front of the TV or they give them a tablet and they're not privy to what's really presenting to the being presented to their child, including cartoons. I remember as a kid, I was watching these cartoons and they were so violent. Now that I think about it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what are the kids? No wonder the kids go and they become bullies and they hit each other because they don't understand that actually that hurts.
Right. Even my childhood classics, Little Red Riding Hood, The Three Little Bears. When I told my kids a bedtime story of Little Red Riding Hood, I just verbally told the story. When they found out that Wolf ate grandma and Wolf was waiting in bed for Little Red Riding Hood, they were terrified.
Mm,
They didn't want to turn the
mm,
lights out. They wanted me to sleep with them. So I thought, yeah, we don't need to be talking about wolves eating grandma, getting ready to eat kids right before bedtime. Like, clearly, that's not of something that's comforting for them. So I also try to provide comforting endings. Um, and also, my kids love holidays. So I wrote a couple of festive books, 10 Little Pumpkins Hide and Seek and Santa's Reindeer Hide and Seek, where they're engaging in a game of hide and seek. The first is at the pumpkin patch with the farmer, and they learn to count to 10 by counting the pumpkins on the page. In Santa's Reindeer Hide and Seek, they learn all the reindeer names by helping Santa find the reindeer at the North Pole. So all are very, kid appropriate topics. And in the Strange Thing Forest, where the child is going for a walk, it's still unpredictable, so it gives them that sense of suspense where they stay engaged in the story and they want to know what happens next, and
mm.
it's kind of borderline, like, they don't know if it's gonna be scary, if it's gonna be cool. It's definitely weird, hence the word strange, but then at the end, it all comes together with a comforting ending where nothing is strange, and that's exactly how the child likes it. So, I
Mm,
think it's just important to pay attention to your child's reaction to those. And as far as, like you said, putting children in front of a tablet, I'm guilty of that as well. If I'm driving, for instance, and we have a long drive and they're watching a show, they'll start out, my oldest likes sports now. So he might start out watching YouTube videos about sports. And the next thing I know, I hear inappropriate words coming out because all of a sudden there
mm,
might be, 18 to 22-year-old boys using language that little kids wouldn't use. So my kids have been exposed to it. They've heard it. And when that happens, you just need to say, that's naughty grown-up language. It's not appropriate for a kid to use. You shouldn't talk like that. Let's find something appropriate. So now, you have to guide them, but they will see things, whether it's in a movie, on a YouTube video, in a book. They're going to see things out there. It's important when they do see it or hear it, I think, to talk about it right away and just let them know, yep, naughty grown-ups say that. Or that's naughty grown-up language. You guys are smarter than that. Let's use smart language. So just to not make them wrong for being exposed to it, but also to encourage better behavior around that.
I love that, because we can't, and we should probably, it's like we should let kids play in the dirt. It's okay if they get dirty, but then we say we got to clean up now, right? When we consider all the different vehicles that people have to engage with content nowadays, do you believe, as a parent, that we should have more ways of controlling what our kids can actually look at?
Oh, absolutely. And you can put parent controls and codes and restrictions to an extent, but there's so many things that can sneak into kids, like kids YouTube, for example. There is your regular YouTube, and then there is a kids YouTube. So for a while, when my kids were younger, I'd only allow them to watch kids YouTube, or YouTube wasn't even an app on the phone or TV. It was completely deleted. But all of a sudden, I heard my youngest son, he must have been 3 or 4 at the time, and he was watching this video called Huggy Wuggy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. And it was like Huggy Wuggy, Kissy Missy, and it just kind of made me raise an eyebrow. It's kind of like, these aren't really kid-appropriate names for characters. So I started
Right.
watching it, and this Huggy Wuggy character looks like a blue cookie monster, almost Cookie Monster reimagined, but he has real sharp teeth and a grin almost like a Joker. And it turned out, I researched it, and it turned out Huggy Wuggy would walk up to the other characters and pretend he was hugging them. And he would whisper things like telling kids to go do bad things, like to hurt somebody or to kill somebody.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
I had to stop that. And then I had to tell my kids, there's some naughty grown-ups out there who want kids to see bad things. They're trying to make this character look like a good guy, and they're disguising him as a good guy, but he's actually a bad guy. Good guys would never hurt anybody. They would never kill anybody. So if you hear characters talking like that, it means it's a naughty grown-up trying to trick kids, and we need to turn that off. So I just feel like with technology in general, unless you're constantly watching every single thing with your child, it's almost impossible, to monitor it unless you cut them off completely. And we do live in a digital world. Like in school now, my kids are on tablets doing their reading, their math activities, group activities. And when they get free time, they know how to navigate. They know how to get around the controls. They know how to, like, for instance, we don't have TikTok, but if my kids see a video on YouTube, they can all of a sudden click a link and redirect to a video from TikTok. So there's so much out there, and it's hard to control it all. So I think it's just important to have those open lines of communication. So when they are exposed or they do see things, they understand the world isn't completely innocent, but we're going to recognize what would a good guy do, what would a bad guy do. And when we see bad guys making bad choices, we're going to turn it off and watch a good guys. And hopefully that'll contribute to them making good choices when they're independent and grown up as well.
No, that's a very important point that you just made, because we can't stop our children from seeing the negativity. But as a parent, I believe that it's important for us to let them know that it's going to be out there. That doesn't mean we have to agree with it, right? And
Right.
that's,
And
as
a
a
lot
parent
of
myself,
even,
it's important.
absolutely. And even things in society, things that are being taught or that certain people want to teach in schools that I feel isn't appropriate. I'll tell my kids, sometimes teachers are going to have to teach you lies to keep their jobs. We know what lies are. We know what the truth is. And if they ever teach you a lie, I give you permission to stand up and tell them it's a lie, go to the principal's office and ask to call your mom, and I will be there, in a heartbeat. So I think it's important for kids to know they don't need to believe everything. And even if, for instance, right now the big thing is children can identify as cats. Well, you're welcome to pretend to be a cat all day long. But at the end of the day, we all know the child's not a cat, it's a human. So, I told my kid in that situation, if a child tries to identify as a cat, or a teacher tells you you can be a cat, you need to tell them, that's not what we believe in our family. That's a lie. I like to go to the office and call my mom. We don't need to participate in that. It doesn't mean we need to be mean to people participating in that. It just means we don't need to play along with the lie, and we're not going to.
Mandy Robinson says, and that's where communication is so important, especially when we communicate with our kids. Let's take a look at this for a quick sec.
In a world where words shape destinies and connections forge futures, this November 22nd to the 24th, Speaking Prowess brings you the ultimate hands-on workshop.
We have a lineup of some of the most influential communication experts in the industry. These are the voices that will guide you on a journey to enhance your ability to connect, influence, and succeed.
Sifu Rafael, master instructor and founder of Speaking Prowess, blends communication and leadership to help you reach your full potential. Dr. Oliver T. Reed, the international multi-best-selling author and motivational speaker, known as the Writing Coach, will help you craft your messages with precision. Jose Escobar, a nationally recognized speaker and leader, will guide you in mastering personal development and leadership skills. This is more than just an event. It's a game-changing, skill-building experience. Walk away with communication prowess that transforms your personal and professional life. Speaking Prowess, where communication becomes your superpower. Reserve your seat now.
Yeah, communicating with our children is probably the most important thing that we can do at home. Get them started, and even say, hey, listen, you may see things that are not appropriate. Please come and talk to me, right? So that
Right.
communication is so critical for our children.
Absolutely. And I don't have teenagers yet. I'm sure the teenage conversations are much different than
Oh, yeah.
the conversations with a second and a fourth grader. But I'm sure, parents, you evolve with your children and you understand how they think and how they speak. And most parents can probably choose appropriate words to get the message across to their child at whatever age that child might be.
Mm. Well, I have two boys. My boys are also, they're 3 years apart. They're 20 and 23. And my kids, even though I know that they will use inappropriate words, they never use them in front of me.
Oh, that's wonderful. They respect you
Because
and you
also
set the standard.
yeah, and I respect them. But one of the things I've always said, and especially even to my kids, I say, people, the reason they use inappropriate words is because they don't have a better communication skills.
Yeah.
That's why.
I love
So I would
that.
like for you guys to consider better words, because those are, I'm going to put it this way, those are poor man's words.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to say they're words that sound like people didn't go to school or they didn't pay attention in school, and I think when they see older boys using it on YouTube, they think that means they're cool. So they'll try to mimic those words or that behavior. And, I'll say, if you went to school and talked like that to your teacher, what would happen? I would go to the principal's office. I said, exactly. So, those are naughty words. They're not cool. Don't act like those boys. But it's easier, said than done sometimes. But I know they're receptive. I hope they have the self-discipline to apply what I'm teaching them as they grow.
Julie, so I love the fact that the books that you've also written Santa's Reindeer Hide-and-Seek. I like the name of this one, Quacky Yappy's Riveting Pond Plunge. So
Yes.
those are such cool names, and the illustrations are great as well. Were these books inspired by your children?
Yes, all of them were. So like I said, with the hide and seek books, my kids loved the game hide and seek when I wrote those. They both loved holidays. So pumpkins at Halloween, Santa and the reindeer at Christmas. They loved rhymes. So that's how all the younger early childhood books were inspired for my kid, from the interest of my own kids at that age. The Strange Thing Forest, like I said, was inspired by one of my oldest child's homework assignments, as well as we'd go hiking quite a bit as a family. He had red tennis shoes and everything kids love. And as they got older, they could predict the early childhood books. And they're like, Mom, your books are getting boring. Write a new one. And I noticed they wanted, more of a story. And also, they never want to know what happens next. But I noticed even in schools, when I would read the books to their classmates, the kids all liked the books, but they all had very serious faces. So I'm like, I need to make the kids laugh. So I thought, how can I write a humorous book that would make kids chuckle? And I also, again, going back to preserving innocence, I wanted to preserve innocence, so I chose animals. There's frogs and there's a duck, or goose, pretty innocent animals. And I used the sounds that each animal makes to create funny dialogue where there's all kinds of misunderstandings. And, the kids kind of get a kick out of it when they figure out what's going on. There's a lot of puns used in the language. There's a dilemma at the beginning. Quacky Wappy crash lands into a pond full of frogs and needs to rely on those frogs to have conversations to call in his flock to get out of the pond. So it's just really funny. It starts with excitement, goes into funny dialogue, and then the problem is solved by the end of the book. So the kids get a kick out of that. Also, when I'd read the other books, a lot of the feedback was, make your books longer. So I did make this one a little bit longer. It's more of a short story with images and a true picture book, but I think kids really like that too.
How old are your kids now?
My youngest just turned 8 and my oldest will be 10 in a couple of months.
So that means that, let's put it to you this way, they've outgrown those books. So it's
correct. Yes.
Now time for you to start looking at what is it that would be engaging for 10 to 15-year-olds. Right?
Yes. So now they're challenging me. They really got into the Dogman series, which is a graphic novel, kind of nonsense talk, but all kinds of characters and plots going on. So I've started a graphic novel. However, I'm not a true artist. I usually use clip art. So I have the words. I just don't have the images. So I don't know if anything will happen with that particular book. Also, my oldest loves sports. He loves playing hockey. So he wants me to write a book about hockey. But I feel like, how am I going to write a children's book about hockey? So that one is just way on the back burner. I don't even know where to start with that one. So I'm going to have to wait for that inspiration or a big idea to come before I embrace a sports type of book.
Let me ask you a question. I have an idea for you. You go to your son's hockey games, right?
Yeah.
Instead of always take your camera, your phone, and videotape some of the game, but also videotape what's going on in the audience. People watching.
Sure. Yeah.
And that can come out from a really good idea, because there's so many funny things that happen in life, but we don't always record them. And then just recording them, obviously you're not going to use them, but you can use the stories behind it and even add to it, right? So that could be a good idea. Even just you put on a tripod and just put it on and just leave it, right, while the game is on and so forth. You never know what golden nuggets will come out of it.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Thank you.
See, we're giving tips to each other.
Yes, absolutely.
And Mandy says, have a great weekend. Awesome topic. And awesome, great importance also, for all of us to consider. So I love your inspiration. I love the fact that you're considering when you wrote these, the importance they would have, not just for your children, but for other people's children. And these books will live on probably way after you and I are gone, right? Because
I sure hope so. I hope they turn out to be timeless classics that all kids can relate to in any generation at any time, regardless of what's going on in the world or what the trend is.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for today. I really appreciate you being here with me, and I look forward to more conversations. And I can't wait until you write those books. The hockey one sounds like it could be a lot of fun. Like bad,
Maybe we'll
bad
write a
news
martial arts
bears,
one
right?
together next.
We'll have to do a martial arts one for kids.
Yes.
Actually, I've been considering doing some because the kids call me Sifu, and Sifu means teacher in Chinese.
Oh,
Um, but the word Sifu also means, someone who is skilled at something. But the word Kung Fu means time skilled. So if
oh,
we teach kids, if they put the time and the effort into something, they will become good at it.
I love that. Practice makes perfect, right?
So we have to get together and write a book together.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Julie, thank you and happy Friday to you. I really, really appreciate you being here with us. Have an
Thank you.
exceptional
I
rest of your
appreciate
day.
being here.
Yeah. Uh, what's before you go? What's one of the things that you can as a tip for someone who may because we're talking about story meets purpose. How can we, even if we don't write a book, how can our story help us meet our purpose?
Well, I think when story meets purpose, you really need to identify what is your passion, what lights you up. And that's going to be kind of your driver that keeps you going regardless of, the hardships. If you have a deep passion for something, that's going to give you the discipline, it's going to give you the will, it's going to give you the push forward. So find your passion. And if you're not sure what your passion is, just when do you feel the happiest? When do you feel the most grounded? When do you feel the most relaxed? And tap into that. And that would be your passion. And then where can you bring that into the world? Is it working with children? Is it in a different job? Is it in a hobby? Is it in a sport? And that's when you can find your passion and put it to action. I think that's going to be where the purpose is met.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you again for being here with me today. And once again, have an exceptional rest of your day and keep enjoying your kids.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.